and welcome to another Colony Talk with
Colony Drop!
I got it this time.
Yeah.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about something that might be a little hard to articulate, but it's most certainly our 5 moments when we knew for a fact that we are fans of giant robots.
Those moments that moved you to pure passion and obsession, and you knew this was your genre.
This is the thing, and then you spend thousands of dollars on the thing.
And hours and time and
blood, sweat, tears.
cosplay.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, who's going first? Let's flip a coin.
It's invisible.
You go first.
Okay. Are we starting at number 5 and going up?
Sure, why not number 5?
Okay. Actually, I don't know if mine are actually in any kind of order. I think I just wrote them down.
Mine are in chronological.
Chronological. That's hard because these all happened about the same time.
Time frames.
Okay, so I'll just start at the bottom of my list.
Alright.
So, I picked Robotech. And I know I've talked about Robotech before, but Robotech is so near and dear to my heart. And yes, I mean Robotech, not Macross. I'm very specific in this. I was racing BMX at the time, and so my whole life was about gotta go fast, way before that meme was the thing. And so I used to actually print out, because I couldn't make decals or anything
right.
I would print out pictures of Veritex and use clear packing tape to tape them to my BMX bike, and on my number plate I had made, a lot of people use decals to put their names on. Well, I had made this really cool in Paint, MS Paint graphic thing with my name in the Robotech font. I had Rick Hunter on one side and Veritech on the other. Nice. My dad was that's so lame. I'm Dad, it makes me go faster.
It's great, go faster.
I was so into those robots, and that's when I first started to turn over into that. I really liked military war stories. I was finally old enough to get out of my magical girl phase and into robots, climbing on out. And so yeah, and then because I read the books first and before I watched the anime, that's really important with what comes next, because I Dana Sterling was a huge role model for me as a kid. But more so from the books, because I feel in the anime she's a little too airheaded compared to the books, where she's clumsy and makes a lot of mistakes and maybe is a little bit airheaded, but she's really good at what she does. And that's why she's in charge. I don't think the anime gave her enough. So she was a huge role model for me, because I always felt the odd one out. And I mean here's Dana Sterling, the half baby of the greatest military commanders, and everybody's looking at her all the time. I felt really akin to her, and she inspired me a lot. And growing up too, I watched Star Trek, and of course before Voyager we didn't have any female captains or anything like that either. And so the boys used to tell me you can't be the captain when we would play. And characters like Dana Sterling were no, I can be the commander. Sit back and watch me. So that was a big deal to me, and crossing that line between anime and Star Trek. Because before anime I was really into Star Trek. And I think Robotech is very similar to Star Trek, at least in its formulaic layout, and it was an easy transition into more of the military, gritty politics of what would become my Gundam obsession.
Right.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
That's why we're here. For long-winded dialogues about our life in giant robots.
I passionately love giant robots, guys.
No.
What about you?
So, I suppose I'll start from probably the most recent is something that you and I did together several years ago, about the time when we were moving into our new base, was our community, our Robot Wars roleplay group. That was a time, and it was a good time when it began. It was a good time when it began. But I started, I think, about a year before you did. I'd found this random online community for play-by-post role-playing, wherein a person, it's here's a prompt. And then in character you choose, your favorite giant robot pilot, and they respond to that. And then another character comes in, and it goes on, and they establish this means of not only having this, group where we could all interact, and then out of character we're all interacting, talking about giant robots, was they set up a way for us to even simulate the battles that happen in Robot Wars rather than just the on-bridge dialogue and antics that go back and forth. And that really got me... It got me back into robots after a long phase of, they're there. But then that's kind of, half of the floodgates that got me, right back into giant robots, and then it's been, treading water in the deepest of oceans, trying to keep up with what's new. Wait, what's... all the new robots. Every robot gets at least a little bit of love, even if it's poorly dubbed or subbed.
Even that game was where I got introduced to Haman Karn as a character. I hadn't even made it that far through Gundam. And they asked me to play Haman Karn, and I was like, okay. And so I started watching the series and doing my research, and I was like, oh my god, it's Alia trainees all over again. I can do this. I used to play Alia all the time. That RP was like so good. It spawned so much passionate headcanon and like, because you play it like an alternative reality, like a Super Robot Wars game, but it was a good time and I miss it. Okay.
We can only go forward, we can't go back.
I'll always have the fan art I drew.
You always have the fan art. Does your next point have anything to do with fan art?
No, not really.
Okay.
I wish it did.
Tried for a transition.
Okay. Fail. So the next one I picked, this is a little further back in my childhood, and is, I guess, questionably arguably a mecha series, was Magic Knight Rayearth.
Giant robots in there.
There are giant robots in there.
Okay.
It was when I was first getting into anime. I had only done like Sailor Moon, Ranma, and then my next one was Magic Knight Rayearth. And so really it was my first like touch of giant robots ever. Because in the early years I was way more into magical girls. I was like a 13-year-old little girl. But I really latched on to two series during that time, Magic Knight Rayearth, and I've already talked about in depth Sakura Wars, so I'm gonna not talk about Sakura Wars today. But the crossover of the magical girls that I was already like into and bringing those robots in for the first time, I know they're not like the most intense robots, but it got me interested in mecha as a aesthetic as well, because after that I went and sought out 5-star stories. So you know what I mean, because this is where like my love for pretty pointy robots comes from and why I'm obsessed with robot feet. If you know anything, if you've ever talked to me about Gunpla or robot designs, I have this thing about robot feet. And Bubblegum Crisis. That's why I like those
high
tiny little feetsies on my robots, is because of those three series. But Magic Knight Rayearth brought in the robots in a way that was pretty, like, and it was girly and it was feminine, but it was also really strong. And I like, as I've talked about before, like I was really into that and I needed that as a child. And it's also why I like Sakura Wars, because they're all really feminine girls and really feminine robots running around beating things up. Like you can be cute and adorable and feminine and frilly in your own way, because God knows they're all very feminine in different ways. And there's so many ways to be a woman, and still be able to get in a giant robot and kick butt, which is rare in the overall world of robots sometimes.
So I'm going to go back to my first point.
Okay.
But only for a second, because it's all in that same time frame. The other half of the floodgates. I made a graphic once. It's like, oh look, here's my timeline. The floodgates is just all it's called. The other half is right at the time that I was getting into that RP, I discovered a new Robot Wars game, Z. And Z had a lot of stuff from another Robot Wars game that I played, so it's like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with these shows. Not really. That's about the time I started sitting in and it's like, okay, I'm going to go and watch some of these shows. And I have the DVDs for half of what's in Robot Wars Z, and then I've watched the other half. So it started collecting anything that I could get my hands on at that.
Is that when you were watching Combattler and...
No, that was after.
Okay, because like, there was that period of time you were watching, like, I swear, the most, like, old, obscure things ever.
Because I wanted to. But yeah, I was trying to stream it too. That didn't go over well. But yeah, I started watching, and then King Gainer happens at that point.
Oh, King Gainer's so good!
I am King Gainer! It's when video games make you good at robots.
Yeah, King Gainer's so good. King of Gainer. Okay, I'll stop.
But yeah, it's that other half of the floodgates. Like, okay, now that I'm in this group, I'm going to start watching all this stuff, because, you know, I'd only watched a handful of Gundams and a couple of obscure things off TV since then. So it's like, okay, it's time to start binging and watching, and then I started collecting all the DVDs. And
that they were easier to funnel into my hands.
Yeah, and the DVDs were easier to get at that juncture, too. That was like a year or two before Sunrise said, no mas.
Yeah. And right in that transition when Blu-rays were starting to come out, so the price of DVDs were dropping. Oh. Okay, and I'm
No
drop-
transition.
and I'm dropping the next one.
You are.
Okay, so again, this is my youth, but this is a little further. It's like the beginning of high school. I got really into Ava, and I don't mean like I casually read some yaoi fan fiction and like watched the series. I mean, I got like really, really, really into Ava. I was making notes about all those weird things. Gasp, door is closing. What does that mean? And I would go to the library and spend my entire Saturday evening until they kicked me out of the library at midnight. Like, researching Old Testament bullshit. Like what is this? I read the entire Dead Sea Scrolls. Like, I read the Bible twice. Like, twice.
The regular Bible.
The regular Bible.
Not the children's Bible.
No, the regular big fat Bible I had since I was a child. Old Testament, New Testament. I read the whole, I'm like making all these notes. My dad like thinks I'm getting really into religion when he doesn't know, as I'm just trying to research a robot show that doesn't actually make any sense. No matter how much research you do. But on top of that, like, and I think people who experience the original Evangelion at exactly the right age, it's like taking LSD for the first time, because it expands your brain to ask questions that you'd never asked before. I was about 12 to 14 when I was getting into Evangelion. Mm-hmm. So as an adult, a lot of it probably seems contrite looking back at it, but the nature of questioning your place in reality and your place in the perception of other people's minds and your place in your own story and how much control you have over that and whether things are destiny or choice. Like, there's so many subtle nuances in the storytelling of Evangelion, and some that are very, very obvious, shoved in your face in the last episode. But it caused me to think about a lot of things that I never thought about before. And it was one of those animes that gave me, like, I think we all know this, but it's hard to say, like, that feeling like this show knows more than you do. And maybe that's the way some people feel about religion. Like, when you're watching something and you get filled with this overwhelming urge to try to learn everything it's trying to tell you. Like, in a deep way. No, I guess not everybody got that, but like, I got really into Ava, in a very hardcore way, and yeah, it definitely changed the way I thought about my place in the world and the world around me, just because it like bothered to question that in a way a 12-year-old could understand and think about. On top of, I really liked the characters and stuff. Yeah. And like, funny story, I'm exactly the same age as Misato.
Now or that?
No, now, like, based on the timeline of the series. So like, I'm the same at the time the second impact happened, which that date was what, 19, I don't remember.
99, I feel like was
when the series takes place, I was the same age as Misato, and that in the actual timeline, because it has a real world date on that. Mm-hmm. That year I was the same age she was.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
we continued age where we're the same age. So technically I guess we were born the same year. So I was like, no, when I was a kid, I was really into Asuka when I was a kid, but you grow up and you get into more mature characters, because now you relate to them. You're like over your depression, you're ready to put on your big girl panties and fly your airship. Anyways, yeah, that was a big deal for me. I spent a lot of time watching that series. I like the robot fights in Evangelion are so iconic. They're so fluid, and the kaiju were so imaginative. It was too much. I couldn't handle it. I spent way too much time, and I still like the new one like a lot. Like, I don't think I was gonna, but even that was like a big moment when the third one came out, and like, I felt all my feels all over again. I was like, where are we going, Ava? I'm on this ride. I'm ready to go. I got front row seats. Let's do this. Take me.
I wish I had more in-depth stories.
I'm sorry.
It's fine, because that's why we differ so much. You have all these more emotional attachments, and I have more visual attachments to everything. It's like, oh, this happened, and it just time was like, like that time when I don't know if it's a national chain, but at least it was like a local chain, Gaddy's Pizza. Mm-hmm. My regular family were there one afternoon, and when you're with your parents, you sit where they want you to sit. And this place had like a big room that had sports on the TV and a bigger room for kids that had cartoons and junk on TV. And that afternoon, my dad decided, okay, we're going to go sit, because your brother's not going to sit and watch sports either. We'll go sit and watch cartoons. And on TV, like, I'd already seen Gundam Wing. It was like, okay, giant robots, cool, that's a good show. But then G Gundam was on. It's like, what is this? this is ridiculous and awesome, and I love everything. And it was like, I'm not even eating pizza. I'm staring, watching a Domo, take off heads with his shining finger. It's like, and they're running another episode right now because it's the first day it's on TV. Oh my god! And I think just that point is when I took the super route, where a lot of people took the real robot route when they were watching Gundam. I was like, no, ridiculousness, head on, full force. I don't care how silly and stupid it is. Your robot can scream and bring you to victory.
It's a good one.
That's a good
I'm
one.
just like imagining little baby you he does like, eat your pizza. Like,
no, I want to watch the robots.
Okay, so my next one, and as you said, like, a lot of people take the real route. I'm typically a real robot person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not a big super fan. I know a lot of people won't like this, but I'm not a big fan of G Gundam, though I respect what it is and stands for.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my other moments I like to talk about is from Escaflowne, which is a magical robots. Harkening back to, like, coming in through Magic Knight Raider, magical robots. You don't get a lot of fantasy magic robots in Mecha. It's mostly space stories.
Yeah.
And where I love those, don't get me wrong. I love a good,
good
good space opera. Escaflowne was, like, so entrancing at once. And, like, this is probably the time, like, when I knew what, like, especially as a cosplayer, if you guys look at my cosplays, you'll see there's a very distinct theme. I really like villains. And especially Mecha series villains, because in a lot of, like, shoujo series, the villains are just evil. They don't really have a reason except, I want to suck all your energy out.
I want the whole world.
Yeah, you Vegeta, like, just, I'm going to take over the world. Like, and what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be a good leader? Because I might help you with that. Like, but, like, when Delandau, like, raises Finalia for the first time and, like, burns the city to the ground, it was just, like, the coolest thing, and it's just like, those robots with these liquid metal claws. I was in love. Delandau is still on my, like, dream cosplay list because this is one of my favorite villains ever. And as the series went on, like, they had such a good story and a reason, and it wasn't just, oh, I'm evil, and oh, I'm just gonna smash everybody because, like...
Because I have to be the bad guy.
Yeah, no, there was, like, a full, in-depth story with a character and a personality and a psychosis, and it was just really good, and that depth of storytelling isn't often found, I feel like, outside of the mech genre sometimes. It's... Too often the stories are just about good versus evil. We're just watching Goku beat up on somebody. I love Dragon Ball. I do. I watch all the episodes. I'm caught up. But you always know Goku's gonna win. The bad guy's gonna lose, and some other strong dude is gonna show up. We're gonna fight. That is that genre.
Yeah, but with giant robots.
Yeah.
The bad guy sometimes wins.
And sometimes has a really good reason for fighting, and sometimes has a reason so good that you really feel it. In Gundam, a lot of times there is no bad guy, but they're clearly the bad guy.
The camera has the good guy, the bad guy, but not the world.
Yeah. But with Escaflowne, the villain was just good, which is good and passionate, and I was just there for it from the get go. And yeah, I really like Escaflowne. It's one of my early kit building days. We used to build the Escaflowne kits.
Yeah, dope.
They were tiny.
I bet.
They were tiny.
They had to be tiny.
I have looked all over to see if I can find them anywhere anymore, but
I haven't come across them.
I have never seen them out in the wild. We used to. I lived in Hawaii, so we used to buy them at like the Japanese department stores really cheap. They were really, really cheap, like $5.
Yeah. Yeah. But speaking of kits, now we all know we have Plebpla, but there's a whole another phase of Gunpla building that I had long before Plebpla. And I'm going to call it Phase 1, just give it a name. I like naming things. It's Phase 1 of Gunpla. And that was...
It's your origins.
The origin. Gunpla, the origin. It's... Back in the days of Wing and G Gundam, and even that short time frame that the OG was on TV, Gunpla was really starting to get in. This is back when when no grades were the thing. You don't have high grade except for a handful. Master grade are even more rare at this point. But I could remember you could walk into our local grocery store, H-E-B, and I bought a gun tank right off the shelf at H-E-B. And it's like, oh, okay. But
H-E-B is a grocery store.
Yeah. But that time was like, I'm just now getting into giant robots. I've seen G Gundam and Wing, and I could walk into a comic shop, I can walk into a grocery store, a video game store, and they've got these model kits of giant robots, most of which I've never seen before because we don't have these shows, but we've got these toys and they're Japanese manuals, and I can put them together and play with them. And it's like, I didn't have any more toys at that. I'm like 13, 14. You don't want toys anymore. You want, video games or maybe clothes or some kind of sports equipment. But it's like, no, I have these toys and I put them together and I can paint them. Now, I only painted them with highlighters because beam sabers, but it's that entryway. It's like, I can buy these anime toys, stuff from Japan. You can get stuff from Japan? The late 90s, early 2000s, that's super rare to get stuff from Japan. And I wasn't even aware of like bootleg VHS, subtitle tapes yet. It was,
You young pup.
I was lucky to skip that phase of time.
I don't know if you were lucky to skip that phase of time. Sending off for shady VHS tapes was kind of the highlight of my childhood.
Now, we had the VHS tapes at the movie store, but, through my stammering, I expressed that, having toys and having weird, out of place Japanese stuff because you liked a giant robot.
Yeah, you just grabbed it because it was like giant robots.
It looked cool and I recognized it, and then it's like, wait, what is this from?
Yeah, and now here we are, and you're like 150 kittens deep in your bedroom.
Yeah, that entire phase was lost when I moved to Austin, though. But, hit the reset button. It's fine.
Build better kits now.
New Game Plus.
New Game Plus, yeah. I lost all my kits from the old days. I had a bunch of the no-grade Robotechs and the Escaflowne figures.
Yeah.
And I had like 2 or 3 Gundam Wing kits. But I was living in Hawaii, so that kind of stuff was really common to me.
Yeah.
Like, it was everywhere there. I bought most of my kits at Foodland. Like, they were just there on the shelf. I have all the Gundam Wing, paper peachy folders they were selling for school because they were just selling them at the grocery store where I lived. I was really, really spoiled at that period of time. My number one,
Yes,
my last one, this is again connected to an emotional memory, I guess. This was SakuraCon 2000, and I just, that previous year gotten into Gundam Wing, because I think that's when it was on TV, and I was totally a fangirl.
Right.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was super into it. And when the viewing room, it was the first day of SakuraCon, it was the first year they called it SakuraCon. This was in 2000. And they were showing Turn A, which had just aired in Japan, I think it was 2 weeks before the event. And so somebody had gotten a raw VHS tape shipped in from Japan, to show, and I was it was 2000, I was young. It was 18 years ago. I was young. I still don't speak Japanese, but I don't speak any Japanese. But it was really cool because the room was completely packed with people, super excited to see the first episode of Turn A Gundam, or Turna, sorry. And if you remember, this episode opens with them putting on their spacesuits, and they're all nervous, and she's singing, Mary Had a Little Lamb, I think. One of them is singing a nursery rhyme. And so I'm sitting in this room and somebody's like, man, we don't speak Japanese. And there's 6 people in the room who do, so they start live translating the episode. And I'll just forever remember sitting on the floor in my little Sailor Moon costume, listening to this whole room lovingly live translate the first episode of Turn A so that we could all watch it together.
Yeah.
And then it starts with singing. So all of a sudden the room starts singing together. It was really funny. It was a really cool, indicative of the Gundam community, working together to make it so everyone can enjoy it. Because 6 people in the room made it so that 40 of us could understand what was going on. We got to watch that very first episode before anybody else. It was just, because you couldn't just download stuff off the internet back then. It wasn't that easy.
You don't get that was the prototype simulcast.
Yeah, that was as good as we got. And that was a big deal. I remember that being a big deal. Oh
yeah,
those were good times.
I bet. Which that's just not something you're going to get nowadays. Because everything's simulcast. You walk into a room, the show's a month old, already subbed.
Yeah,
it's already subbed or dubbed sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they're subbed in a matter of 24 hours. I watched we watched Lupin and the new Dragon Ball, and it's pretty much up within 24 hours of air with a subtitle.
Yeah.
It may not be the best subtitle, but it's up with a subtitle.
Yeah, it's enough that you can get what's going on.
Yeah, it's Dragon Ball. It's not that complicated. Goku's gonna punch stuff.
Yeah. So I can actually transition.
Woohoo!
Back to turn A, back to not knowing Japanese, and back to Japanese stuff. Playing Super Robot Wars Alpha Gaiden. That was a start. Like that's months before I go to my first convention. I just made a friend through anime, and she introduced me to her boyfriend that moved from, I think, Virginia. And he's like, "Hey, I've got access to this kind of technology. Give me your PlayStation 2. I'll rig it up. So now you can pop in Japanese games." Japanese games? Yeah, you can play Super Robot Wars. You like giant robots, right? Gundam Wings in it. Oh, okay, and Mazinger. Mazinger's great. What's Mazinger? So it's another gateway into all this giant robot stuff, and then learning that you can get a hold of Japanese stuff. Like, it's more common than just model kits have fallen off now. You're not going to find them in stores anymore, and at least not at that time. And you go through, and I'm having to write down everything in Japanese. Like, what is this robot? I liked what it did. I liked, how it goes. Like, something, something, V. Something, something, Gandamu. Oh, look, I've learned how to read Gundam now. But I'm playing through this entire game on a modded PlayStation, then a modded PlayStation 2 later, because my friend, was like, gave me the big hookup on everything. And it's like, hey, now we're going to this anime convention. Now I'm gonna show you the real stuff, the real good. And it's like, look. It's like, so I guess the point's less about Alpha Gaiden, but more about my friend Deuce, who introduced me to Super Robot Wars and conventions, and put my foot in the door to let me know that there's more giant robots out there than just what's on your TV screen.
And if you didn't go to conventions, you never would have met me.
Oh no! Where would my life be then?
Probably be still living with Deuce.
That's not so bad. It's better than living with my parents.
Yeah, for sure. It wouldn't be so bad, but
No.
But you wouldn't be you here with us.
Now, in the present, or at the end of this video, unless you have anything else to add, I think my rambling and stammering is done.
I'm feeling pretty good about this.
Alright, I feel great about this video too. So, how about in the comments, you guys let us know what was some of your most memorable points where, yeah, giant robots, that's my jam. That's my swag. That's my other words that I'm not going to say because children are watching. And as always, ZEON!